What is going on, everybody? This is Zachary Knerr, co-host of Blast Beats, back for episode 9 with a jam-packed episode of releases and reactions, along with my co-host Chris Spooner. How you doing, Spoon?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Zach?
I'm doing all right. Lots of outside personal things going on, but we keep on trucking. And as I say, we have some fantastic albums to keep us going. And I made some. I don't think you probably didn't get a chance to read the description of the episode, but I threw some lofty words in there because I said that we both had some very bold things to talk about and takes to talk about, and had some AOTY thrown out there as well, because I definitely have
Mm-hmm.
something that creeped up there very close to the top of my AOTY candidate for 2021. Um, but yeah, October 22nd and October 29th, two very big days this year for metal, hard rock, whatever you want to go into, all of it. But yeah, where do we begin? Where do we even begin? Do you want to kick things off?
Uh, if you want to go kick things off, I'm getting my notes up here.
I will
Things are not
start.
loading for me.
No,
Technology
you're
is
good.
great.
You're good. I will start with a fantastic release from Don Bronco. Not something that I have high up on my list, probably in like maybe in the 25s, like 2025s in that area. Amazing things. I tweeted about this album on the Twitter account, and the first song just grabs you, Gum Shield.
Mm-hmm.
And I very much find myself just really bouncing a lot to that song. Um, I love it. Really cool, um, cool album. Very like interesting, not necessarily like, so I've been noticing this a lot recently. There's a lot of artists and songs that I've been listening to when I've been searching that are very much going in this like electronic electronic rock. And I
Yeah,
am a very big EDM fan, so I am a very big fan of that when done correctly and done right. There are a few bands that I have liked in the past that just went completely EDM, and I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for the fusion of the two genres, not just straight one, straight the other, but the fusion of the two. Um, and they do it really well. It's still pretty heavy, all that stuff. I'm reading right there, related vinyl delays forced the band to reschedule the recent release date.
hmm
So I don't know if that means that they are available though.
I
Oh,
have no idea. I
nice.
couldn't tell you.
Yeah, everybody's been talking about this, like not being able to buy stuff, and I don't online shop whatsoever.
hmm
So I'll just go into Target and like the mall and be like, all right, well, let's see what we got. But like,
Yeah,
it's so
yeah.
weird.
I've been pre-ordering CDs, so the vinyl shortage hasn't really affected me because I
Yeah,
don't have a
yeah,
record player. I really need to get on getting one, but
yeah. We're gonna
um,
we're gonna work on that. We're gonna work on that.
yeah,
I want to do my own research because I know a lot about mine, but I don't know a lot about everything else in general. But yeah. What else? So yeah, Don Bronco's album, freaking fire.
Yeah,
Let's see.
I loved the Don Broco release. It like you said, it wasn't something that's gonna,
Oh, is it Broco? Oh, it's Broco. I thought it
Broco.
was
Yep.
Bronco. Oh, Jesus Christ. Well, Don Broco.
Yeah,
Anyways,
it's like you said, it's not something that's gonna, reach the album of the year heights for me. But it was a really fun record. There's a lot of, heavy stuff there for the heavy crowd, but there's a lot of electronic elements. There's a lot of kind of just fun rock elements to it. It's got
yes.
a lot of diversity. It's got a lot of variance in it, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to find, so you shared that tweet from the red herring last night.
Yeah.
with all the releases. So, I mean, does he do that every week?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm trying to find the one from the week before. There we go. This is exactly what I needed because I'm not going to remember everything I listened to because there were a lot of one-offs, and I'm trying to. I did not get to. There's a new song by the Word Alive that I really want to check out because I used to be really into the Word Alive. And speaking of,
Hmm.
like gelling the electronic and rock and metal sound. Apparently, Paris released a new song too, and that's probably going to be pretty fire. Um, this is what like this is what's really cool right here is like getting into it and like seeing all the like little ones here and there and here and there. Because there were a lot this week that I didn't know about that
Yeah.
I was able to listen to and find that I was really cool. And that's the one that I was looking for of Mice and Men. Mice and
Yes.
Men released a new song called Gravity, right? Gravity.
Yes.
That one
Gravity.
was Gravity, yes. And with it, the release or announcement of a new album. Gotta love it. I'm very excited. Say what you want about Austin Carlisle. There's been a lot of very weird stuff that's come out surrounding him over the past couple of years and like 3, 4 years. So whatever. Post Austin Carlisle of My Cement to me has been fantastic. And for a band to lose their front member and the
Hmm.
lead face of their band, I would say definitely change their sound back to what it originally was because they were getting very soft. Very, very soft. Not that that's a bad thing, but it was it was barely even like post-hardcore or like there was like just no unclean vocals at all. And to go with Aaron and just completely just go and like completely just overtake my expectations. It's been very pleasant to watch them grow and watch them continue.
Yeah. They're not a band that I'm intimately familiar with. I've heard some of their stuff, but I'm not I wouldn't say that I'm a huge Of Mice and Men fan. But I did listen to the single, and I was really impressed. It was really good, and I'm intrigued about the album that's coming up. I know our friend Josh is a big Of Mice and Men fan, and we've been talking about the single, talking about the album that's coming up. Um,
So
so it's definitely something I'm
I
gonna check out.
I'm a pretty big of Mice and Men fan. And so the thing about of Mice and Men is, like I said, their vocals have had a lot of change. Because you had Austin Carlisle for a long time as unclean vocalist, and well, at the beginning, you had him from 2009 to about 2010. Then he left for a little bit, and then he came
Mhm.
back. Um, and he came back, and from 2011 to almost like pretty much 2017 he was doing unclean and clean vocals. But then you also had Shaylee Bourget, I believe that's how you say that name, um who very, very popular. I definitely remember that name. I forget where he went. But he was doing clean vocals, and then Aaron was doing clean vocals and playing bass, and now he's doing clean, unclean, and playing bass from 2017. And that's like stuff like that. That's awesome. Like that's where you get into the areas of like Caleb Shomo, where like
Yeah.
he's doing everything for the band, and then like not that the other guys can't do it, but it's like, oh wow. And then they released Defy in 2017 or no 2018, January 19th, 2018, which was really, really good. That was the follow-up after he left. They have that cover of Money by Pink Floyd, which is
Oh,
solid.
interesting.
Yes, very, 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 very good. And that was a really cool album because it was like, all right, man, these guys are doing something. And then they did this weird like EP trilogy thing, which I'm not saying that's weird in general, but like I'm unless you're like releases are weird for me because I feel like in certain genres you should just be working for albums.
Mhm.
And especially I feel like this is one of them where like I can understand an EP if you were banging out this album and then you made way too much and you had like all of this, and maybe that's the case with their EP trilogy. Um, but I feel like EPs and stuff are a lot better tuned for like EDM and I mean, I don't want to say hip hop, but I was pretty much on board when Kanye was doing those like song albums. I was kind of
Mhm.
like, all right, look, cut the crap. I'm tired of these 20, 24 song albums that have like 10, 15 filler songs. Just give me the good stuff
Right.
and jam pack it in 30 minutes. I'm cool. That's fine. Whatever. Um, Technically that's why I like the term projects better, because I feel like project kind of encapsulates the
Yeah.
sentiment behind everything a lot better. So no, I'm very interested. I'm trying to remember what it's being called. Oh, Echo. It's called Echo. That's the new album name.
Gotcha. When does that come out?
Echo of Mice and Men. It comes out on. Come on, Kerrang, give me something good. Agree. Um, Oh, it's going to consist of this year's Timeless in Bloom EPs plus the final release ad infinitum. So it's okay. Okay. This makes a lot more sense. December 3rd, and it's
Okay.
going to have all of the songs from the past two EPs plus some new ones.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of like just bringing it all together.
Yeah. Well, that
Um,
makes sense.
you know what? Interestingly enough, another hip hop artist that I listen to, Big Crit, did this exact same strategy where he released 2 3-song EPs and then released a project with a third EP to wrap up everything into the same thing. It definitely makes sense, and I guess it's a better way to it's
Yeah.
probably an interesting way to space it out.
I like the trend that we've been seeing in the metal world, like the last year and a half of releasing EPs
Yeah.
rather than a full project. Because for me, you know, part of the excitement of doing this podcast and diving into these releases every week is discovering new bands and discovering you know albums that they've just released that you love and you want to hear more from the band, and then it's going to be 3-4 years before they release another album.
Yeah.
So I like the release a 4 or 5 song EP every 2 years, year and a half,
Yeah, and I guess
and bring it all together for a big project.
that's where the the confusion I have with like other genres comes in, because like I said before, I'm a hip hop fan, and I'm pretty much expecting every other year you're dropping something, because
Mhm.
that's pretty much the expectation. There are some artists who, like Chance the Rapper is probably like the most famous for doing this. In like the stuff that I viewed, there's probably a lot more artists that I could have pulled from, but this is my best example. And he released Acid Rap, and then it was like 4 years. And everybody's like, "Oh, yo, where's the next Chance Rap album?" And then he released Coloring Book, and then it was like 3 or 4 more years. And everybody's like, "What? What the heck? What the heck? This is crazy." But then you bring that schedule over to something like metal,
Mhm.
and metal fans are like, "Well, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
What's Daft Punk fans? Daft Punk fans have to wait like freaking 10 years in between each release. Like, give it a break. The 4 years, 3 years. I mean, God, at this point, I would pay an ungodly amount of money for an EP from Pierce the Veil. It has been so long.
Yes.
It has been so long that I need that. I need it. I saw them right after Misadventures came out, and everybody, they were all talking about, oh, we're writing something. We're writing something. If you don't release something by the end of this year, a song or something, you probably have like 2 or 3 months at the beginning of 2022 to catch that COVID wave. And then at that point, if you don't release anything in that time period, I pretty much consider you a dead band. Unless
Yes.
you release something right before COVID, right before it. Like, if you didn't have the time as and granted, I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't know that like the people in Pierce the Veil have not had other jobs at this point and are doing other things, and that could be a completely different story. But if they are sitting together as a band, or any artist, and this goes for any artist, and you did not release something just before COVID or in this past 2 years, what were you doing with your time? You had no better opportunity than to get together and release
Yeah.
something, to be cooped up in one place and get together and convene ideas. You make that little like party, that group in one house. like I did with my family, like you probably did with your roommates and stuff like that. And you go from there. Like I
Right.
don't like it's crazy.
Yeah, and with the amount of bands that absolutely did do that this year in the last 18 months, it's
Exactly.
anybody who didn't do that missed a golden opportunity.
And I can even give you an excuse if you didn't want to go out at the beginning and not get together because of how down locked down everything was. But the past, that as somebody who works in the daily public 40 hours a week since all of this has began, let me tell you, it's like nothing has changed
Yeah.
at this point. I like we just had our most profitable week ever that my GM has seen in 1 week since he's been here. And it's not the summer. People aren't traveling. We're talking like just like a random week in October. It does like it's back. It's
Yeah.
back. It like people are out, people are doing stuff. So at this point, I feel like the only thing that could possibly be stopping is like travel restrictions. That's maybe it. But like how many bands are consisted of people that don't live within the same country? I want to say that would definitely be a much smaller percentage.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's a very small percentage
Yeah, because
that
it has to
I'm
be very
aware of
difficult.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I know that was kind of an issue for Spirit Box when they were getting together for Eternal Blue and doing the promotional stuff for Eternal Blue in specific. Their drummer Zev doesn't appear in any of the promotional
Oh
photo
wow.
shoots or
Oh
anything
wow.
for that because they're a Canadian band and Zev is in Philadelphia.
Okay, see that one specifically, the
Yeah,
Canadian and US border, that one makes a lot of sense.
yeah,
But there's a lot that don't like if you're an Australian band and like all of a sudden you're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, our bassist, yeah, he lives in Missouri." Like I'd be like, "Where did you meet him?" Like stuff like but the Canadian border, that makes a
yeah.
lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. But anyways, we the so Don Broco, yeah, that was really awesome release. We've
It
gotten
was a
way
fantastic release.
fantastic
I
release.
loved it.
But my AOTY candidate definitely for the year by far. Every time I die, Radical. Oh my god.
Yes. Oh
Oh
Jesus.
my god.
This album,
Fantastic
holy
release.
shit, it blew me away.
And so I will be upfront before we start the discussion of this week's stuff, in that I haven't listened to a lot. I've listened to a little bit. And what happens is when albums like this come out, it puts me in. It reminds me of stuff I've listened to before, and I
Mhm.
was telling you about this. So I've probably listened to this album all the way through at least like 10 times this week, and on top of that, so we've had this really big punk wave this year.
Yeah,
And we talked about it last episode and we're going to talk about it again. And what it did, and we've already talked about this, and I'm going to ask the audience because I don't know how many of you have listened to this band at all, but I think of punk and and not necessarily like, oh yeah, like this is punk, like whatever, but there was a band when I was going to Warp Tour that I was really down with called Let Live. Their lead singer Jason Allen Butler is in Fever 333 now, which I did listen to. But what albums like this make me do is it makes me go back and listen to a lot of older music from when I was in high school and college, because there's a lot of releases that I have been listening to from that time period that I have a much stronger appreciation for now than I did back then. Because there's a lot of
right.
songs that I took for granted back then that I love now. Um, and like countless. I mean, like if you had showed me like things like Ride the Lightning, if you had shown me that, I would have like listened to what's the is literally Ride the Lightning the big one on there?
Red Lightning, Fade to Black.
Yeah, literally like Ride the Lightning, or what is it? just Enter Sandman from the Black Album, like stuff like that, like when like presented with me back then, I just be like, oh yeah, I like that. Like I'm just gonna listen to those. But now in my all the stuff that I have learned through the radio station and through doing my own exploration, I take those albums as a whole now and run through the whole thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is
Yeah.
crazy. Um, so that again is what happened with some Let Live after I listened to Radical, and I was just putting their stuff on through repeat. And man, man, Radical, it's so good. It's
It
so good.
it is. It's an incredible album. It's definitely going to be up there in my album of the year um, candidates. It's something that I didn't have huge expectations going into. I was, I'd heard the singles and it was like, yeah, this is all right. Um, and like as we've mentioned in a previous episode, I have tickets to go see them actually coming up in March of 2022. They're going out on tour with Under Oath and Spirit Box, and I bought
Yes,
it because I'm a
yes,
huge Spirit Box fan. I never really listened to Every Time I Die. Heard a couple of tracks, but I figured I'd check out this album because I am going to go, and it blew me away. Just the first track just grabs you right away.
yes, yes,
Planet Shit we've talked about just absolutely goes super hard,
yes.
super hard. But
Unnecessarily hard.
my favorite track on the album is actually the kind of soft emotional track, "Thing with Feathers." That
Yeah,
one is just, oh my god, so emotional. The instruments are amazing. The interplay between Keith and the guest vocalist, whose name I can't remember, um, it's so good. It's so good. And if like I was saying on Twitter, if there are two things that I love musically, it's songs that deal with tough subjects like suicide or drug addiction, and the soft track on a hard album. And this song hits on both of those.
yes.
I loved it. It's the track more than any other one that really got me to, okay, this is an album of the year candidate.
Yeah. Like you said, Dark Distance just right away pulls you in. And then like Sly, Planet Shit, Postmortem, which actually I'm liking Postmortem a lot more than Planet Shit now. Um, which I mean, Planet Shit still rocks, but there's a lot on this. All This and War is my favorite song on the album. Which is
Hmm.
actually right before Thing with Feathers. But I was just looking at information about tickets for Every Time I Die, and they do come to Richmond on December 4th. With
Nice.
68. I don't know who that is. Um
Yeah, I don't either. I've heard the name, but I'm
I
not
think
familiar
yeah, I
with
was gonna
them.
say
I
I
don't
think I've
know
heard
what
the name,
style or
but
what they sound like.
yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna have to check some things out. They definitely still have some albums up for sale or some vinyls up for sale that I kind of want to grab. But yeah, that was my big one from last week, and the one that I've really been chumming away at because, like, oh my god. Um, there are some
Yeah,
other
that
things that I'm
was.
seeing that released. Circus Survive released an EP. Um,
Mhm.
some Silent Planet released a new song. Um, yeah, that's about from the names that I really know. That's pretty much what I see.
Yeah,
Um, was
the
there
other
anything else
thing
you
that I
wanted to touch
listened
on?
to from
Yeah,
that week, yeah, was Arch Enemy released a new single, their first new music in like 4 years. Um, and we touched on them a little bit in last episode. Their lead singer, Elise White-Gluz, was the original lead singer for The Agonist, who we talked about
yeah,
last episode. Her band Arch Enemy um, released new music. And I was a big fan of the new single "Deceiver." Um, I know for some people it's kind of basic. A lot of Arch Enemy stuff kind of all sounds the same. So you either love it or you don't, and I loved it.
Hmm.
Jeff Loomis's guitar work is fantastic on the album as always. He's one of those guitar gods. Um, and Elisa's vocals are fantastic. Um, it's for me, it's a great track, and I hope it's the prelude to a new album.
Yeah.
Because I'll check that out when it comes out.
Yes. Tons of great new stuff. Um, so yeah, we sat there and we listened through all this for the week, and then you got an album that released today early, if I am not
Yes,
mistaken.
yes,
And that is a perfect segue into this week because we still have some AOTY talk, if I'm not mistaken.
absolutely, absolutely.
I have not had a chance to listen to it yet, by the way.
Um, so Whitechapel released their single "Orphan," a few weeks ago, and we've talked about that on previous episodes, and how good that was. Um, and then about a week ago, I was watching one of my favorite YouTube reaction channels, Tank the Tech,
Yep.
and he did a reaction to Orphan. Um, and kind of mentioned that it was kind of harkening back to their previous album, The Valley. Um,
Hmm.
so I went back and listened to The Valley, and that was where I was like, oh, so this is kind of where Whitechapel is evolving their sound to,
Hmm.
and immediately pre-ordered Kin. I got Kin on Tuesday, and I've listened
Oh
to it a
wow,
couple
early,
of times.
early.
Yeah, yeah, I
That's
pre-ordered it on. I think I pre-ordered it on a Friday and had already gotten it on Tuesday. So Metal Blade Records, shout out to Metal Blade Records. They were really on top of their shit there.
yeah, good,
Um,
good. Somebody needs to be in this point.
right? But yeah,
Don't feel like many people are.
I've listened to it, and it is an amazing album, absolutely amazing. There's um, a lot of variance in the songs. There's a lot in there that is going to appeal to old school Whitechapel fans. There's a lot of the old deathcore sound in there, but there is so much more in there. It starts off with almost a kind of country-ish twang in the first song. Um, and there are electronic elements, there's acoustic elements, there's just straight clean guitars, there's obviously there's clean vocals in Orphan and some other tracks. Um, it's a phenomenal album, just from front to back. Absolutely great. Probably easily in my top 3 albums of the year, and it's probably not number 3. It might not even be number 2. It might be the top album for
It might
me.
be the top album for you.
It's between that and I think Costalum from Slaughter to Prevail. Those are my top 2, and I'm not sure which one is one at this point.
Yeah. Like I said, I haven't gotten a chance to listen to it yet. I definitely need to spin it. I did listen to the first like 5, 6 songs from Black Veil Bride's new album. And I mean, it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
What I thought was more interesting is when I went to listen to it last night, um, I was pulled away from it immediately because I saw because I like I said, I use before I've said this before, I use Apple Music.
Mhm.
At the bottom of the album on Apple Music, it has you can there's two lines of albums. One is other albums by this artist, and then the other one is other albums by artists like this. Um,
Yeah.
and on the one for Black Veil Brides, it had we stitched these or restitched these wounds, which was a remake or a remastering, I should say, of We Stitch These Wounds, from like I think that's like their first album or first piece of work. And on that is my favorite Black Veil Bride song of all time, Knives and Pens. And I immediately was like, wait, what is this? Because I forget when, but look, Black Veil, and not that this is a bad thing. There's a lot of people that like Motley Crue.
Mhm.
Black Veil Brides are the 21st century's Motley Crue.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. The shtick got old to me after a while. I just like when you're watching, like I was really into alternative press,
Mhm.
and when you're watching the AP awards and it's just like Black Veil Brides every year, and you're like, some of these guys are better. I don't care if they're popular. Some of these people are
Yeah.
better. And I just kind of was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. So I completely missed that remake. And I went back and listened to Knives and Pens. And the one thing about Knives and Pens that is really unique is it was back before they were big and it's very raw.
Yeah.
And the reason they wanted to do it is because they have a lot of fucking money now
Right.
and they can make it better.
Right. They can clean up the production elements that you couldn't when you were struggling.
What they can't do is bring back Andy Black's ability to scream.
Fair.
And it was evident because I was ready. I was waiting. And that's what I noticed about the new album. They don't have any unclean vocals anymore.
No.
It doesn't exist. He might get a little raspy, just a tiny bit, but none. None. And I'm listening to Knives and Pens and hearing the like sheer because like it's not even close to the wails and shrieks he was hitting back in god, what was we stitch these wounds. Oh my gosh, this is 2010, July 20th, 2010. So it is 11, probably, they probably released this last year. So this is 10 years later.
Mhm.
No, no, he can't do it anymore. He can't. It's like, it was like watching Steven Tyler sing the national anthem that one game. It's done. It's done. Pull the plug. Stop going in public and doing that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
And
and
this is what they do. And
yeah,
and,
there's
and
there's a
it's
reason that they evolved their sound to get away from that apparently.
exactly,
And
exactly.
that's what this album is. It's actually the album that I listened to, just got done listening to before we got on here. And it's all right. It's
I
you
like
know
the instrumentation more than the vocals.
yes, absolutely same. Um, the instruments are fantastic. I love the guitar, to the guitar work in it. The tones are great. The riffs are great.
And that's the thing. That's never been an issue
Yeah.
with Black Veil Brides. For me, it's always been a vocals thing. Because if we're gonna be honest, their self-titled is incredible. In the end, and that whole thing, like that album is great.
Mhm.
And then I forget the album after that. Let me see if I can pull it up. Because so you've got We Stitch These Wounds, and then you've got the self-titled, and then after that, and you also have Set the World on Fire and Rebels. Um, oh, the self-titled is not the one that I was thinking of. I was thinking of Wretched and Divine, which Wretched and Divine is
Mm.
incredible.
Yes.
Wretched and Divine is the one that is like wow. Um, and that one was 19 song behemoth at the time. Um, yeah, wow. Okay, so yeah, they have a lot, but it's just it got old. It just
Mhm.
got old, and you can only listen to Andy Bierzak's voice so much, do the same thing over and over, project after project. So
Yeah,
out,
and that was kind of my big criticism of this album, is that it's big. It's a big album. It the the vocals are arena rock type vocals. The choruses are big. They're you know trying to appeal to a larger audience, and it just doesn't really work for me.
hey, by the way, everybody, when you have to, I need to mute this. Everybody, by the way, when you have to two monitors, be very careful where you decide to click, because yeah, I just totally got rid of the freaking window I was in. No, we're good, we're good.
It's all good. It's all good.
But yeah, yeah. We're vibing. Um, I'm trying to remember. So what else did I? So I listened to Being as an Ocean's new single. That was really good. And I have listened to Being as an Ocean in a while. And there was one on here that, and I've talked about it before, and I said I wasn't necessarily going to be paying a lot of attention to it, and that would be a lie. But that was the Mayday Parade album,
Hmm.
and I saw the song, and I'm starting to listen to it, and I get about and I'm listening, and I'm like, all right, I totally know the direction of this entire album. I know what's gonna happen here. It's gonna be the emotional stuff again. It's gonna be nothing like Sunnyland. And then halfway through the song, the drums kick in, and I was like, oh, wait. And it got so much faster, so much more fast paced. And look, I know that Mayday Parade are emo gods, and they can pretty much do anything they want with emotions as far as songs go. But Derek's voice needs to be backed by fast drums because it works so well, and their upbeat songs are so fantastic. You guys have done so many slow songs. So many slow songs. Can we have some positivity? It's what we need. It's what we need. I don't need to cry about things anymore. I want to celebrate. We need to get out of a funk, and we need a fun, strong you know who did something like that was Knuckle Puck. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
No.
Uh, they are very, very cool pop punk band out of Chicago, pretty big. And their last album was actually called 2020. And it's not like 2020, it's 2020 Vision.
Hmm.
Um, but it was released right before everything kind of kicked off. Um, and it's kind of cool to look back on because it's so happy, and it's so like so care. It's like a really cool carefree pop punk album,
Hmm.
and it was something that I really like was listening to a lot back when everything was really kicking off at the beginning, because I was like, yeah, I need these vibes because everything else sucks right now.
Right.
And having this lighthearted, like, let's look at. Speaking of which, guess who has a feature on the album? Derek Sanders, lead singer of Mayday Parade. Um, but like, it's really interesting to see like some the way some of those things work, and how they kind of like, because like you look back on an album called 2020 released in 2020, and you're not really going to be like, oh yeah, that's fun, that's cool.
Right.
um but yeah, some other things I'm seeing on this very, very long uh Twitter thread. Shout out to the Red Herring. Follow him at Alan Harrington or at Alan Harrington, ALANHERRINGTONN. Two N's at the end.
Hmm.
Don't forget the second end. It's very important.
Yeah.
Um,
Al's Twitter threads every week on what's
yes,
coming out are a godsend.
it looks incredibly
Yeah.
solid. Um, You've got a new song from Famous Last Words, which I need to find and check out. A new Under Oath song, which I have not listened to only because it features Ghostmane, and that's pushing it for me. You're pushing my patience. Um, Volumes and Like Moss to Flames both release new songs, and that means Like Moss to Flames is 100% releasing a new album, because that's two songs, and they
Yeah.
don't do stuff like that. Um, Boston Manor has an EP. Um, what else?
Uh, Mastodon released an album
Oh
today that I
yeah,
haven't
that's
gotten
right.
to yet, but I really need to. Um,
You know, that's the one. So Mastodon has always been that one band that I've never listened to, but I'm always around.
mhm.
And what I mean by that is like what genre is Mastodon?
Like hard rock, groove metal. They're a weird band. I don't really know what I would classify them. They do so much
See, it
out there
says,
stuff.
yeah, it says on Wikipedia, heavy metal, progressive metal, sludge metal, stoner rock, and alternative metal.
Okay.
Um, where
Yeah, I'd
is
probably say alternative is probably the best
my
descriptor
first
to me anyway.
introduction to Mastodon was another one, or Once More Around the Sun. And have you ever heard of that album?
Yeah.
That album cover is insane.
Yes.
And that was when I was at the radio station. It was on the new music shelf, and I'm looking at this album, and I'm like, "What the fuck is this?" And then I feel like it was one of those times where it just didn't really match what I like. I'm looking at this album cover, and I'm like, "Oh my god, this is gonna be insane!" And I think
Mhm.
I listened to at least a couple songs, and I wasn't like, it wasn't like, oh, like there's some songs that are some bands I listen to, and I'm like, oh, that's what we're doing. Um, but like this wasn't like anything like that crazy. But I've never really listened to them. And this one, and the only reason I say like they have this weird place every Friday. We all know that new music releases on Friday. So midnight, I get off of work pretty much every day normally, except for tomorrow because I work overnight tomorrow
Mhm.
at between 10 p.m. and 11 p.m., which means I'm not going to sleep until well after midnight.
Right.
So that's my prime music time. And on Thursday night and Friday morning, when midnight hits, I know exactly where to go. I pull up my Apple Music app and I go to browse. Now, every single week, I have to specifically go to the hard rock and metal categories in order to see new releases because they just don't have the same appeal as a lot of the things that are releasing right now. Like
Right.
Ed Sheeran had an album releasing today. I'm sorry. Black Veil Brides is getting no love when Ed Sheeran is releasing music. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
You know who did get love on the main page? Mastodon. I think it was one or two swipes on all the new releases from this week, and they were there on the front and center. No other
Wow.
rock releases, or no other metal releases, no other hard rock releases. Mastodon.
That's
And
pretty big.
and that's the thing. I think they have this pretty big name recognition.
Yeah, they
Um,
do. Absolutely.
but and then I'm like, I've never listened to them. I've never known somebody that's listened to them. And unless like, do you listen to them
A little bit.
a little bit?
I listened to Crack the Sky and Emperor of Sand.
Okay.
They're two of their more recent releases,
Yeah.
and I really enjoyed them. But I'm not
Okay.
hugely familiar with their discography.
Yeah. So I mean, I've never met somebody and they've been like, Mastodon is my favorite band.
Yeah.
Um, but like they have this like I'm looking right now, they have a ton of awards.
Yeah.
They've won 3 Metal Hammer Golden Gods awards. Two awards from Kerrang. They have a Grammy. Um, they have a Danish Metal Award for Crack the Sky. Um,
Yeah. I mean, they're a highly accomplished band, a highly thought of band by critics. But like you've said, I've never met anybody who's like, yeah, Mastodon is my favorite band.
yeah. So it's just really interesting. And I mean I don't know. I can't really. Oh, they're from Atlanta too. Holy
Yep.
cow. That's even crazier. Um, are they on Roadrunner right now? It looks like maybe
I think so.
Hushton.
I'm not positive.
We'll see what Hushton. Where is it? Hushton Graham was released on. Oh no, they're on Reprise.
Reprise. Okay.
Interesting. So yeah. The album also serves as a tribute to Mastodon's former manager Nick John after his death from cancer in 2018.
Yep.
So yeah, I haven't listened to it. And now I kind of want to oh wow, yeah. One of their early like claims to fame was their sludge metal concept album about Moby Dick, Leviathan.
Leviathan. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard of it. I haven't listened to it.
Interesting. What is sludge metal? What does that mean?
You know, it's kind of down tempo, long drawn out songs. Kind of got um, a vibe like the band Down, if you've ever heard of them, which features Phil Anselmo as the vocalist. Um, it's really kind of heavy, down tuned, slow, drawn out songs.
Okay.
Albums are typically long.
I'm trying to see the I mean, again, obviously I use a lot of they say Electric Wizard is sludge metal. Okay. Okay, kind of like in the same as that. That makes sense. They say Alice in Chains.
Eh, I don't know that I would call them sludge.
That's probably just the grunge vibe that
Yeah,
they're mistaking. Um which
which I mean, there are similarities. Yeah,
we still need to do that episode. I'm very excited. We need to get like a good like 2 or 3 weeks before we decide to do that so I can actually like
yeah,
have some very like meaningful things to contribute because there's going to be a lot I have to listen to. But yeah, bunches and tons of releases coming up, and I did take a look up to next week, and there's something I'm very very excited to listen to.
I I'll be honest, I haven't even looked at what's coming out next week. I've been so swamped with what came out this week.
Bullet for My Valentine self-titled coming out
Oh,
next week.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be listening to that.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Bullet for My Valentine fan. So
I so like I've said when we were talking about Shatter, I've seen them in concert, but I've never really paid attention to a Bullet for My Valentine release. So I think it's gonna be very interesting for me to like see this upon release and give it a full run through. Um very close to the date of coming out because I haven't really had that experience for. Like Moss the Flames has an EP coming out next week, Pure Like
okay,
Porcelain. So not an album, EP. Um, oh wow, that's a very very interesting name that I'm not going to say. Oh, I love rock music. People are just ridiculous sometimes. um, but yeah, there's still a lot of interesting stuff that is yet to be released and is remaining to be released in the next 2 months of the year.
yeah,
Um, I'm not sure if I'm just doing a really 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 quick look through over the next 2 months or other than the next 2 months. Did I say weeks or months?
months.
Okay, months. I don't know if I see anything really that's gonna overtake something like um radical for me. And I mean, I like you said, Whitechapel's pretty much pretty high for you.
Yeah,
But I really this throws it right back to January 8th, 2021. They don't put anything for 2022. I don't really see much with the potential. I mean, unless Of Mice and Men just straight up just blows us away with these final 3 songs, which then again we can go back and listen to 66% of the content already.
yeah,
Which that's my only thing with that whole strategy is I'm like, we already know 2/3 of the album. You're just releasing like the final 3 songs. That's cool, I
yeah,
guess. But I don't see anyone besides, yeah, just besides. And that now I apologize if I am offending your favorite band who is yet to release. And I speak to you, Chris, and I speak to any listener out there if I'm offending your band. But I'm just going based off my biases of what I know and the names that I know. And like, there's a lot of bands and metal bands that
mhm,
I know are very good and popular and revered by name. And I'm not seeing any of those left on this list. Rise Against has an EP that come out in a couple weeks. Um, yeah.
yeah,
I think like Moss to Flames, or not like Moss to Flames, Bullet for My Valentine is the last one, really for the rest of this year that could really, really, really make some outside of some like brand spanking new, absolutely fantastic debut albums.
right. Yeah, like from what I remember from Loudwire's calendar, there isn't a whole lot left in this year that I'm looking forward to as far as bands that I know. Bullet for My Valentine is kind of the last one, and if it's something that is more of the sound of like the Poison, Scream Aim Fire, then I'm gonna love it, and it
Yeah.
might reach the album of the year heights that Kin and Radical and Costalum have reached.
Yeah,
But I'm not expecting that.
I really have to sit down, and because I like I've said in the past, I listen to so many genres that my AOTYs are very confusing and very like if you were to sit here and ask me my rap top 5 right now for this past year, I could do it. But I'm missing half the year for metal because we started this
Yeah,
in like August. 2, I am I have like EDM in there, and I have punk in there, and I have a little bit, just a tiny little bit of pop music in there, and like things like classic rock. Like I said, I go back and listen to a lot of older music than I do discover new music.
yeah,
Because like I'm a very big fill holes in my music history kind of person because there's so much I haven't listened to. And like today, I've been getting into podcasts recently. Ironically, I make podcasts and I talk about I'm getting into podcasts, but I was not a big podcast listener.
same.
My ear being messed up right now and only having the one ear, the podcasts have been a lot like more satisfying to
Okay.
listen to. Because like I like if we're being honest about music, mono recording is cool, but stereo recording is preferred
Yeah.
because that and I'm missing half of
Right. Right.
the experience. So I've been listening to The Right Time by from Bobani Jones. I love Bobani Jones from ESPN. And he brought up one of, and I'm trying to remember why they were talking about this, but they were talking about music. And he brought up one of my favorite topics, which is the Beatles.
Hmm.
And he, of all people, to give the Beatles props. Well, Monty Jones is not one of the people that I thought would give the Beatles props, but he made great points. The first point that he made is when somebody says in general conversation, the Beatles, they're like, oh, yeah, oh, I want to hold your hand, baby. And he was like, but that's not the Beatles. That's
Yeah.
not what I'm talking about. You have to separate. And there's two. I don't think we talked about this on the podcast before, and I could make a whole episode about the Beatles because he also said the second part that is very, very key in the Beatles argument, and a part that we discussed earlier about that you don't have it is the record player. The record player is huge in actually understanding how good the Beatles are because he was like, I went to the Vegas Cirque du Soleil show, which I did as well, and had a very big revelation that the Beatles rock. They jam. They go hard because you don't get the same effect from your stupid headphones
Hmm.
as you do when you stick the vinyl on there. Um, on Fridays, he has Dominique Foxworth on his shows on Fridays. And he was like, what's that song with the octopus? Blah, 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 blah. And he's like, oh, yeah, Octopus's Garden. That album, Abbey Road, you throw it on there and it's amazing because it's incredible. It works in the general sense. So there's two general eras of the Beatles music. And there's the first part where it was ridiculous, stupid. We're going to copy American success for boy bands and make them just like we appeal to like 13, 14, 15, like the teenage girls.
Right.
And then they finally got enough money and enough like creative freedom to then at one point, and I would say it's Rubber Soul is the start of the second era. And they're like, we're going to do what we want to do now. We're done with this.
Yeah.
It's time. We're done. And people want to give John Lennon all the credit in the world. George Harrison is the brainchild of the Beatles. If you
Yes.
don't know this, if you don't understand this, it's like John Lennon is John Lennon. But when you want to talk about who actually was behind the brilliance of the Beatles, and like you would, if you pull up somebody who has no idea about music and you talk about like the Indian influences and sound for the Beatles, be like, who influenced this? They would probably say John Lennon. No, George
No, it's
Harrison.
not. Yeah, it's George Harrison.
George Harrison.
Absolutely.
Every time somebody's like, oh, what do you think about the Beatles? And you're like, oh, John Lennon sucks. That's why I hate the Beatles. George Harrison is rolling in his grave because his name is being sullied for the thing that he is responsible for. Him and Paul McCartney. I even give it to Ringo Starr over John Lennon because John Lennon sucks. John Lennon's in the Tom DeLonge category for me. They're in the same category. One's a lot worse, and it's not Tom DeLonge, but I still don't like Tom DeLonge.
I mean, fair.
um, but yeah, so it was just really it was really interesting, and because like we we've gotten to this part where like there's so many bands who just put stuff out just to appeal to the mass, and I think what people more want is just be yourself and put out what you want.
Yeah.
um and that's where like look, if Black Veil Brides wants to sit here for freaking 11, 12 years and just be the Motley Crue cover band esque type band, and that's what warms their heart at night, more power to them. I applaud them, but it's not for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah, and
and
it's that's a subject that we've touched on a lot here with bands
exactly,
evolving their sound and just kind of doing what they want to do, and that's what I want from artists. I just want them to put out the music that they want to put out. If it appeals to me, fantastic. If it doesn't, then it's not for me. I want artists to have the freedom to put out what they want to put out.
let me see if there's any more pop punk releases because I know what's their names is still um Mayday Parade's album still hasn't come out yet. And it's still coming. It comes out on November 3rd. Because there were also some solid pop punk releases this year. But it's so hard to find stuff of this category of this like nature for
Yeah,
some reason.
I haven't really gotten I haven't been a pop punk guy for a while, since probably
It's
the mid
it's
2000s.
yes, it's a lot easier when it's like something like what's it called? Loudwire, where like metal and hard rock, that's a
Yeah.
lot easier to to look at. But then like pop punk, it kind of gets a bit like niched into a specific category that not a lot of people pick it up. And you just have to kind of like know. The only way I ever figure out is I just go straight up to the all the people that I want to go to, all the not the people, all the labels that I
Mm,
want to go to and look for their recent releases and stuff. But it just gets really annoying.
yeah.
Um, and I also have to deal with the fact that everybody's like, "Oh, MGK's pop punk now," and I'm like, "Shut up." Um, yeah, I can't really find a good like. I need a. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to go through labels and get a list. But again, I haven't heard anything from a lot of bands that I know would be releasing things. Um, so yeah, I just the itch is always there.
Yeah.
I just want more and more and more. Um, this album from Starset. Do you know who that is? Starset.
Yeah, I listened to a few of the tracks, and honestly, I turned it off. I wasn't
You turned
feeling
it
it.
off.
Yeah, I
Okay.
got through about 4 songs, and I was just like, "This isn't for me."
Okay. Yeah. I've
I've
been
listened
seeing a
to
lot.
I've listened to Starset in the past. I've seen them in concert. I've enjoyed some of their music, but this wasn't doing it for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. I'm gonna like we said before. I'm gonna have to go back and look at what we had from earlier in the year. I'm gonna have to look at a lot because I missed the whole first half of the year.
Yeah, I've been meaning
And
to go back and listen to the stuff from before August for a while, and I just haven't found the time.
man, Oceans 8 Alaska never dropped their project. Um, what was Hopeless would be another one. I'm not, and I have no intents right now of trying to just fill time. I'm genuinely curious if anybody else has anything coming up that I'm interested in listening to. Um, Newfound Glory, Trash Boat.
Newfound
Yeah.
Glory?
Oh yeah, no, yeah, they're still going.
I had no idea they were still a band.
Yeah, they're still going. Yeah.
Huh.
Um, they're on Hopeless right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not seeing much. My only other hope would be Rise. Because they always have stuff releasing. 'Cause they have
Yeah,
so many bands.
Rise has been killing it lately.
Yes. Let's see. Life Forms. I don't know who that is by. Crowd and the Empire just released a new song. I need to check that out.
Yeah, same.
What It Means to Fall Apart comes out on November 19th. That's the album from Mayday Parade that's coming up. Yeah, there's not much there. Yeah, a whole bunch of stuff coming up. What we will see continues to be known, and like I said, we'll probably be back in a week talking. I really hope we're talking highly about that Bullet for My Valentine album because I'm very excited. I'm very excited.
Yeah, and we'll be talking about, all of the stuff from this week that we didn't get to today because
Yes,
a lot
and
came out. A lot
there's
came out.
also the fact that we have and as we've talked about before, singles come up out of nowhere, EPs come
Yeah.
up out of nowhere, even heck, some artists like releasing albums out of nowhere. So while we have this list, all of a sudden something could pop up out of nowhere and this conversation is completely changed and completely pushed to something different that we had no intentions of going to. But that's how music works, baby.
Yeah.
That's the fun. That's the richness of what this is because there's always more to discover, there's always more to release, there's always more to consume. Yeah, oh man, I can still hear the rain. It has been raining so bad today. But yeah, I think that about wraps us up for today.
Mhm.
My name is Zachary Knerr, one half of this fantastic crew here at Blast Beats. You can find me at Zach Knerr right next to my name on Twitter and follow the Twitter account at ATB underscore Blast Beats. Spoon, if you want to go ahead and sign off for me.
Yeah, you can follow me at Spoonful of Sport, and like Zach said, follow the Blast Beats account at ATB_Blast
It's scrolling right there right at the bottom of the screen, right as we're saying it. As I said, we will be back in a week. I am currently moving in the process of moving and we'll have a new setup. But it will not, we will be back. I promise. No more breaks. We'll get it all figured out. I will still have internet. I will still have a place to live. So we will be fine. But yeah, hope y'all have a fantastic rest of your day and a fantastic rest of your weekend. This has been Blast Beats episode 9, hosted by Zach and Chris. Stay wonderful, stay beautiful, stay amazing, rock on, and we'll see y'all next week.